These doors are a counterpoint to the east chamber doors behind you in the rotunda. Those doors are hand-carved, 5-inch thick mahogany, 600-pound slabs of wood. They start the theme of the east chamber. And remember, when Nebraska built this building and the legislature first convened here, we did not have a unicameral, we had a bicameral. So these two chambers were used when the building was first completed. And the two chambers, appropriately, the theme, everything in the building has a theme. The east chamber represents the original Nebraskan, the American Plains Indian. The west chamber represents the mix of races that represent the dominant culture of Nebraska today, who came along essentially after the Native American was a dominant culture on the continent. So you have original Nebraskan on the east, starting with those hand-carved doors and the entire theme of the interior of the chamber. The same thing is true over here, except we jump several hundred years forward to the dominant culture of today. Now you look at these, for those who work in the chamber, who've been in the chamber for many years, know the theme there are largely gold leaf stencil on the walnut beam ceiling. It's magnificent, and they are events of history that we would all recognize from our American history courses. The Spanish discovering this part of the country as the first Europeans in this area. The French came in and took over. We bought the Louisiana Purchase from the French, and then we have the Lewis and Clark expedition and so on. Those are all things we kind of know and have a memory of. But if you don't recall your 4th grade tour of the Capitol from a few years ago, these doors go back far further in history. The doors on the east represent the origins of the Native American culture. This had to represent the mix of races from the immigrants of Africa, Europe, and Asia who came here. And therefore, how do you do that with two people around a stylized tree of life? The thematic consultant for the Capitol was a native Nebraskan. His name was Dr. Hartley Burr Alexander. He's in the Nebraska Hall of Fame, as he should be, and he's the guy who prescribed what these doors should represent. His challenge was, how do you represent people from 3 incredibly diverse areas on the continent by a couple of people on the door? Well, what he did was say, okay, I'm going to go back in history to the origins, to the antecedents of the Europe, Africa, and Asian cultures. And where did they all originate? We know that most of this originated in Northern Africa and the Middle East. And so he went back several millennia, several thousand years, to find images that would represent that. This is essentially doors reproduced from what I've seen carved in stone through my architectural history that represent Mesopotamian culture, because they were one of the very first dominant cultures in the region of the world before they split into various tribes that went out to Europe, Africa, and Asia. He found this historic piece, and those who planned the building adapted it to the doors. This right here is a stylized tree of life in the center. Again, very Mesopotamian in character. The term Mesopotamian means between two rivers. I won't get too technical because I can't. But between two rivers means the Tigris and the Euphrates River. That is what we know as Iraq today. It was known as many other countries throughout the millennia, but that is in fact what these are. So these are Mesopotamian images that were taken from stone carvings in history of that region of the world, with a stylized tree of life, then a male figure holding a shovel to cultivate or to plant that tree of life, and the female figure on the other side holding a jar of water to nourish the tree for growth. At the very top, there's a very interesting borrowing of an Egyptian symbol here. This sun disk in the center, with the wings off of each side, is a classic lintel carving for an Egyptian temple. If you were to go to Egypt and and walk through Karnak or any number of historic towns and villages there, you would find this is a lintel piece over the door, except in Egypt, they have cobras coming up each side to make it very much more indigenous to that region. We don't have cobras in Nebraska. The cobras went goodbye when they put this design together, but it is clearly an element drawn from that same region of the country, from the Mesopotamian area that represents the mix of races that ultimately broke up, spawned out into Europe, Africa, and Asia to form the various cultures that in-migrated to the United States from over the last 400 to 500 years. Now, I have my script. I finished it to the bottom of what I have written here, and I feel really proud of myself because for those of you who know me well, know I can talk ad nauseum and love to do so, especially about the Capitol. But I'm going to conclude my remarks here. I hope this has been informative to you. I want to say in closing an enormous thanks to my friend and colleague of many years, Pat O'Donnell, and to the legislature as well. But the clerk's office led the charge on this. We were able to get this project done because we collaborated, our two offices, on the expenses and the work it was to get this done. And I cannot thank the legislature, and particularly the clerk's office, for the leadership and the support they provided to getting this project done. It is a tremendously visible and important element of the building, and now it is in the same quality and the same appearance that it needs to be if it's going to be right off the rotunda of our National Historic Landmark Capitol. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your attention. Love it and enjoy it, please. Visually, remember, you don't walk into the Louvre and walk up to the Mona Lisa and try to put your hands on it and see how the paint feels. We don't do the same here. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for your attention to the Capitol. We love the building and we want you to also. Thank you very much. If there's questions, I'll attempt to answer them. Otherwise, thank you for being here. Enjoy the legislative session. They are in business in the next 13 minutes. I'm just going to go in.